Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Couch23, and running this game today is going to be Kain. Um, it's pretty actually introductory speedrun. I haven't quite ran it in a while, but it's pretty easy to pick up, and it's a pretty simple game to play. Early on, we're just going to be mashing through a whole bunch of text. So in the run, I'm not quite sure if Kain does the Seed 92 setup, but in this game, the encounters are determined by encounter seeds. There's 255 of them. And a lot of speedrunners, when they run this, set up Seed 92, which is the optimal up through Mist Dragon, before they start the game. And that will allow us to get no encounters between the Barren Walk and Mist Dragon. Alright, so we just took the water crystal from the Mysidian Elder there, and we're gonna take it back to Baron and go see the king. First, we're gonna get a little introduction on encounters in this game. These items actually exist in the Japanese version, but they only exist in the intro in the US version, because for some reason they took away a lot of stuff when they brought it to the US. I actually think you can get fire bombs at the very end of the game in the US version. I think they're like a stolen item from the Red Dragons. Might actually be a drop, I don't remember which one. But the firebomb is like the only one you can get in the US version. So we're landing in Baron. We're going to be greeted by the king's left-hand man. We're going to go return the crystal and go through a little bit more story. Alright, so once we get through all these cutscenes, we're going to do a little bit of walking. We're going to stop and grab a tent and a chest. That's going to be for a glitch we're going to do after we fight the Mist Dragon. And then we're basically going to make our way to our room and take a nap. This run is actually really easy to pick up and learn. You can get a really good time really quick, even without like step routing or putting a whole bunch of time into it. It's definitely pretty easy to pick up and get going. So we just menued, we changed the battle speed and battle message to 1, which is the fastest. It's just going to make our encounters go a little bit faster, whether we're running away or fighting. So as you saw, we only grabbed the tent there. Like I said, it's going to be used for a glitch in a little bit after we fight the Mist Dragon to get actually on the other side of the Summoner's Village, which will actually allow us to enter on the opposite side. I'm not sure why it's coded that way, but it is, and we can get some pretty strong items really early on. So we just kind of spoke with Sid. We're not going to see Sid really at all in the rest of this game. At least this run anyways. We're going to stop after Mount Ordeals once we become a Paladin. So I didn't see Kain take any extra steps, so I'm assuming he's not running Seed 92. If you do run Seed 92, you have to take at least one extra step somewhere in the castle. Because what happens is on the inside tiles of the castle, those actually count towards your encounter steps, and then on the outside tiles, they don't. So if you take a whole bunch of like extra steps on the inside, you can actually advance your encounters and like remove some of them from your walking. All right, so we're just finishing up the intro here. Once we get past the scrolling text, we're going to really get into the beginning of the game. I'm assuming we're going to see a couple encounters here before Miss Dragon. It's not really a big deal. We'll just run away. But yeah, we just got to wait through the scrolling text, and we'll be good to go. Probably the part of the run that's like the most boring, because you don't literally do anything. You just sit here and wait for the text to go through. The first about 7 minutes-ish of this game are a bit on the slow side, but once you start actually, being able to control your character, it does pick up quite a bit. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. Not too bad. All right, so our first movement is going to be down to this chocobo forest over here. I actually didn't know about this forest till I started speedrunning the game. We're just going to walk down here, grab a chocobo, which will reduce our encounters to 0 and speed us up a little bit, and then we're going to head to the Mist Cave. We're not going to pick up any items inside the Mist Cave, but we are going to just going to make our way right to the boss. So a neat thing about movement in this game is if you hold like down and right at the same time and you need to go down and right, it'll just automatically move you. You don't have to move your thumb off of a direction. Like you can hold like down and left to get down these stairs, and you'll just, as soon as you start moving left or right, it takes priority over up or down. So you'll like go down once you can't move left anymore, and then you'll go immediately left when you can again. It's really interesting to try and get used to when you're moving, but it actually gets pretty useful in some situations where you don't have to like roll your thumb a whole bunch. So we're coming up on the Mist Dragon. This is a pretty straightforward fight. Kain will be jumping most of the time, and Cecil will be attacking. You really don't have to worry about healing. You can get 7 attacks off before the Mist Dragon turns into mist, which is 3 Kain jumps and 2 Cecil attacks. There is an audio cue after the Mist Dragon turns into mist. You wait for a certain audio cue, and then you queue up Kain's jump after a certain audio cue, and he'll jump and then land immediately after the Mist Dragon turns back into the dragon. Speeds the fight up a little bit. Timing can be interesting though. So we got our 7 attacks. We're gonna wait a little bit for a sound cue, and then we're gonna jump. Looks like we got it. Now we're gonna actually duplicate our shield here and do some inventory management. We're duplicating the shield just so we can get a bunch of money, so we can buy some items along our travels. Alright, so it looks like we got it. We are now entering on the other side of the town. We're going to pick up some dancing daggers in this weapon shop. They're going to be our main source of damage for pretty much the whole run. And then we're going to stop up at Rydia's house and grab the gold hairpin, or the tiara as it's called in this game. It will be very defensive for Rydia and allow her to use those dancing daggers pretty efficiently. Well, not efficiently, just she'll be able to use them more because she won't be taking as much damage. So there's the gold hairpin / tiara, and then I'm gonna pick up the chain rod here. Can be useful, especially if we're doing Fire 2 strats with Paladin for Mylon Z. Usually that's skipped in the Paladin run, and we just do glitched encounters, at least the higher, like those who are comfortable using the Mimic glitch and stuff. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I believe Kain's going to try and show it off after the run. It's not like super reliable, and it can be a little frustrating if you miss it during like a marathon. So here we're basically just burning down the town. We're going to find Rydia, get her to join our party after she basically causes the landslide to destroy half of a town. And then we'll be on our way to Kaipo. Usually in this little mini fight, people will do some inventory management, move some items around, try and make things a little easier to access. We'll see what Kain does here. So we did get a little item adjustments there. It just makes things easier to equip or move around or use in battle. Because most of our equipment time, like most of the times that we equip equipment will be in battle. Every once in a while we'll throw on an item outside. It's usually faster to equip weapons and shields in the in any battle. So when I was talking about seed 92 at the beginning of the game, it's called step routing basically. There's a predetermined amount of encounters per encounter seed, and it kind of varies throughout the game as you go. Um, if Kain was step routing, which I don't believe he is, we would be counting steps here, basically seeing where our encounters landed, and then we could figure out where exactly the encounters were going to be for the rest of the run. Pretty interesting, and it can actually save a decent amount of time over not step routing. So here we get to the inn. We're gonna get a little I want to say not a hard fight, but like a mandatory fight. In the Japanese version, it's actually really easy. You just use the dark command, but unfortunately, like all those secondary commands were removed in the US version again for some unknown reason. Um, but here we'll basically just be attacking, maybe try and throw in a run buffer. I'll go into that in a little bit to basically delay the enemy's ATB and try and get an extra, like squeeze an extra turn in there. It looks like we're just gonna go with the whole day strat, which unfortunately you can never really get all three attacks off with the whole day strat without getting interrupted by them attacking. But if you do what's called run buffering, anytime there's a text box up on the screen while you're in combat, the ATB is actually paused across the board. And what you can do is you can kind of delay the enemy's ATB while your attack is ready to go, and you can kind of squeeze out a couple more ticks, which actually gives you another turn in that fight. If you get good ATB, that is. It's still kind of RNG based. All right, so we're going to leave the in here. We're going to throw the Tiara on Rydia, just so she has that extra defense, and then we're going to move her to the back row. She'll be moved down one spot. And then we're going to go see Rosa. If you actually forget to get Rosa, Tello won't let you buy. He won't join your party or whatever. Seen it happen a few times in a run. I've done it myself when I was learning the run. But here we're going to talk to Rosa and find out if she's been infected with sand fever. I also like to point out that Rosa says, "Don't leave me," and then immediately we just walk out the door and say, "See ya." Like, it's always pretty weird reading that. So here we're going to make our way up to the Watery Pass, talk to Tella. Tella's going to join our party. And then we're going to make our way through the Watery Pass, like all the way through. And then we're going to go fight Octomam, the next boss. We're not going to pick up any items outside of the Darkness Sword. Right before we leave this part of the cave, we're going to pick up the Darkness Sword, which is going to be strong against any water monsters, and Octomam being an octopus. The Darkness Sword does some extra damage, which will help in the fight. But our main damage dealer is going to be Rydia. So unfortunately, since Kain is not step routing, we won't know where his encounters will show up, so will truly be quote-unquote random. We just won't know where they'll come up. It can be faster sometimes without step routing. Most of the time, step routing is going to save time over not. There is a awesome website out there that has every single encounter seed, and has like an auto seed finder that you can count your steps and find out what seed you're on. Exodon's website is pretty neat. Just sit through a little cutscene here. Nothing really going on. Just finding out that Tella's daughter ran off with a bard, and that's why he was blocking the path. So we've got a few more rooms here before we get to the Darkness Sword. We're just kind of walking along, making our way. So unfortunately we get a surprise attack. Surprise attacks definitely are going to slow down the run a little bit, especially this one. You got 6 enemies, 2 of them are spellcasters, and spells always take ultra long to get off. You can run into back attacks as well. I'd rather see a surprise attack than a back attack since Rydia remains in the back row in a surprise, whereas if it's a back attack, Rydia can be in the front row, and you can actually lose Rydia early, and then you'd have to menu to get her healed up. We're going to make our first small detour here out of just trying to go along the paved path. We're going to grab the Darkness Sword down on this chest on the bridge here. Once we get the Darkness Sword, we're going to leave the cave, and then we're going to get ready to fight Octoman. Octo is a pretty easy fight overall. We're just going to have Cecil attack, and we're going to have Rydia use Dancing Daggers. Tella will probably throw a Cure spell here and there, just to try and keep Rydia up. Some people stop Tella, so he gets less turns, which gives, in turn, Cecil and Rydia more turns. But some people also just keep Tella up, just in case Octo decides to target, like, only Rydia. Pretty safe fight overall. It can just be a little bit slow if the damage rolls are on the low side. So Octo is actually the fastest enemy in the game, and his ATB is based off of how many tentacles he has. And he loses his first tentacle after 3 hits, and then every 2 hits after that he loses another tentacle. And with each tentacle he loses more speed, which makes the fight a little bit slower for him, but faster for us. So we're trying to get off as many attacks as we can right away first to try and reduce the speed a little bit, and then we'll more than likely see Tellus cast Stop on himself here. And then we'll have just Rydia and Cecil putting out damage. Or we can also throw some split ones too to try and make Octo even slower. Unfortunately, Tella doesn't do a whole bunch of damage. We see, 45 versus Rydia pushing like 150, 200, and then Cecil pushing like 125 to 130. Crits can only happen with Cecil's physical weapons. The Dancing Dagger is actually going to be a magic attack. Alright, so we have Tella casting Stop here. That's good. That means Rydia and Cecil get some more turns off. You can actually use a lot. You can technically use anything in your left or right hand in combat as a spell, but not everything has a spell linked to it. Dancing Dagger just happens to be an item that's not mid-game, but a little bit before mid-game. But getting it super early makes, as you can tell, a ton of difference. So once we get down to 2 tentacles, it's kind of a telltale sign that you're towards the end of the fight. And after this, we're just gonna pretty much sit through some more cutscenes. There's a lot of cutscenes in this game, which makes it a little bit slow to play sometimes, but still pretty fun speedrun. Alright, so now we're through. We're going to make our way to Damsian Castle, and then we're going to get probably one of the most quoted things from this game. Another interesting thing about this game, you can see sometimes Kain is just mashing up or whatever during text boxes. You can use like any button on the controller to get through text boxes. I think select is like the only one you can't use. Might be L as well, but you can mash with any button on the face of the controller pretty much. Pretty interesting. In a lot of games, there's just a dedicated button to clear text. So that step to the right that he did when he was walking down, that actually takes an extra step, and sometimes you have to route that into your step routing. If you go to the left, it's actually one step less, because any of the cracked floor tiles don't actually count as steps, which is pretty weird. I'm not sure exactly why, but it's how they made the game. Tell is just not hitting the bar today. Ton of misses. Usually he only hits about 1 out of 4. Sometimes he'll hit all 4 though. Alright, so once we leave Damsian, we're going to get the hovercraft, and then we're going to make our way to the Antlion's Cave. The Antlion's Cave is pretty straightforward. We're not going to grab any items except for maybe a life potion, and we're not going to go out of our way for that because it's a chest that we literally have to walk right by. It's more of a safety item than anything. You can't use life potions on undead enemies in this game. They just don't do anything. They're just useful for reviving your own party. You can get in a back attack in the cave, which can kill Rydia and Edward possibly. And that life potion is for them since there are 2 main damage dealers for the Antlion fight. Alright, so the Antlion Cave is a little bit to the east, but we need the hovercraft because there's only some shallows here. We're going to do some formation adjustments. We're going to move Cecil to the top right, to the top middle, and then have Rydia and Edward in the back row, just so they can survive some more physical attacks versus as being in the front row. Fun fact about how you walk in this cave, if you go either right or left, it's the same amount of steps to the doorway if you walk properly. So it really doesn't matter which way you go here. It's the same amount of steps if you happen to be step routing. So we do grab that life potion, which is good. Good to have as a safety in general. It takes like no time to pick up, and it's something that, in my opinion, should always be picked up, even by those who are really good at this game. They should still pick it up. It takes a minuscule amount of time to grab. It's good to have as a safety in case you get a back attack or a surprise attack. So we'll fight Antlion here. Antlion has 1000 HP. We're not going to attack with Cecil because we'd get countered, which is slow, and we can also have the chance of losing Edward and Rydia. Edward can throw dancing daggers as well, so we're going to parry with Cecil and just have Edward and Rydia throw dancing daggers. Usually only takes 3, sometimes 4, just depends on your damage rolls. Seems to be getting pretty good ones here. Accidentally threw a hide there instead of a dancing dagger, but that's alright. Fight's over pretty quick. Not a lot of scary parts. So after this, we're going to make our way back to Kaipo, go use the Sand Ruby on Rydia, and then make our way to Mount Hobbs after some cutscenes. The walkout should be pretty easy overall. It doesn't really matter if you lose Edward or Rydia on the walkout, because we'll be getting a full heal at Kaipo. And also, strike firsts are actually slower as well than just regular encounters, because you have to wait for the text box to clear versus just running away just like we did. There's nothing really like scary in this cave. You should never really die in here unless you get horribly back attacked multiple times in a row. Just a straightforward walkout. There is a glitch that we do take advantage of in this next fight coming up. We have like a little cutscene fight between Edward and a water hag. So there's a small glitch in this game, small-ish, I guess. It's relatively useful. If somebody is equipped with a back row weapon at any time, like a harp or a bow and arrow, that effect is permanently applied. So if you put, say, the harp on Edward, since he comes equipped with it, and we remove it, he still has that back row effect applied to any weapon he equips after on. So he deals the same damage from the back row as he would with the front row. So we're going to take advantage of that in this fight by not losing any accuracy or damage to get through the water hag. The water hag is just a scripted fight. You have to hit it 3 times. That's it. It's got an absurd amount of HP. It's like 25,000 or something. You could never actually kill it in a traditional playthrough. Another thing about why Edward is in the middle slot actually has an accuracy boost. I'm not sure why the center slot has an accuracy boost, but if you put somebody with like lower accuracy in the middle row, they get basically a higher hit percent. This also helps with the back row glitch that we were talking about just a little bit before. So we'll get one more hit here, and then we will be done. And then we'll mash through a little bit more text. Then we're going to get on our hovercraft and make our way to Mount Hobbs. Right, so when we leave Kaipo, we're going to leave a specific way, just like we did when we left the first time. Um, those 3 tiles right after the door are walkable tiles. But if you go to the left here and go down, like you would be leaving, you're going to end up on the left side of town where we parked our hovercraft. If we go down and right, like we did the first time we left, we're going to exit on the right-hand side. And if we just go straight down, we will be ejected on the bottom side. I think that's the only town that does it that way. Otherwise, every town has its own exit tile. So it doesn't matter where you park the hovercraft there, where he was when he was right next to the entrance that he walked into is an okay place to park it too. You actually need to park it there for a different speedrun of this game. Um, that other speedrun goes into a lot more detail on a lot of specific things. Here we're just going to have Iridium melt the ice, and we're going to make our way up and find Yang. And we're going to fight Mom Bomb, which is a pretty technical fight to get down really well. But overall, it's a pretty safe fight as well. Looks like we got no encounters on the way up, besides that one. It's not too bad. Usually I get a couple, even on step route. So we have a little like tutorial fight here coming up with Yang showing us how to use the kick command. This fight can actually be over in 3 encounters, 4 encounters, or 5 encounters. Or not encounters, but attacks. So it goes kick, punch, kick, punch, kick. I think the imps have like 38 HP. I think this will be a 4 turn, if I remember right. There's only like 20-ish different versions. Okay, so no, that was a 3 turn. So in this fight, we're going to deal as much damage as we can to Mom Bomb. We want to get 800 damage to Mom Bomb before Mom Bomb will actually explode. We're just going to fight with Cecil and Yang. We're going to throw Dancing Daggers with Rydia and Edward. And then Rosa's going to keep the HP up on Rydia and Edward. And once we get 800, Mom Bomb's attack queue will change to the explosion queue. And then we'll change over to, once they explode, we'll split into 6 bombs. So we're going to queue up a kick here. So once Mom Bomb explodes, Yang will kick, but it'll deal damage to all 6. So we kind of like preemptively get going. The gray bombs here have 100 HP. I think the regular bombs have like 50. So we're going to Dancing Dagger the gray bombs and do our best to try and get out as much damage on the regular bombs as we can before they explode. Yang went down, unfortunately. It's not the end of the world. Really don't need too much health after this fight. We just need to make sure we have enough to make it through to Fool. Alright, so that fight was pretty good overall. No bombs exploded, means it went pretty quick. You know you've gone a little bit on the slower side if you have some bombs explode. Alright, so after this, we're going to make our way down the mountain, go to Fagul, which is the homeland of Yang, and then we're going to stage a defense against the castle. Looks like we've got a few encounters so far. Not too bad. The worst I've seen is like 6 or so in between Mount Hobbs and Fubul. We usually see some people save outside of Fubul. It can be a little scary. Edward can get crit really early and go down. Since Edward is our main damage dealer, we want to make sure that he tries to stay alive. So we do see a save here, which is good. Just so we don't lose some time if we happen to get unlucky. So like I said, for these fights, Edward's going to be our main damage dealer. And we're going to try and take out... So there's 3 fights with a general and 2 soldiers, I think they are. Our main goal is to take out these 2 soldiers and the general run away. And then the other fights, we're going to have Edward Dancing Dagger, the witch in the back, and then just have Cecil and Yang fight. As you can see, Edward is putting out a lot more damage than Cecil or Yang combined. Yeah, we're just gonna run through a few fights, maybe do a little bit inventory management, try and move some stuff around. We'll see what Kain decides to do here. Otherwise, it's just 5 pretty quick fights, and then just a little scripted fight with Kain in the throne room. So you can tell even Edward in the back row is doing more damage than Cecil or Yang, just due to that back row glitch and being in the center slot, having more accuracy. So not too many people do inventory management in these fights. They're pretty tight timing as it is. There is one fight, it's the one after this one, it'll be with a gargoyle. Usually you'll throw the Dancing Dagger with Edward, and then you'll just move around some stuff with either Cecil or Yang, depends on who goes first. Yeah, this game coming out in '91 holds up really well. The pixel art's fantastic. It's maybe a little on the slow side, like just with movement, like dash functions and stuff have definitely helped make things better in the future releases. But this game still holds up really well. Alright, so we have one more fight after this Weeper and Capwater Heg fight. It'll be with another general and 2 soldiers. And then we're going to run into a scripted fight. In that fight against Kain, Kain's going to jump. We're going to attack ourselves to try and get our HP low enough to where we're in like critical stage. That's when the fight is scripted to end, either when you're in critical or you KO. So you have been seeing that can't run message showing up. Talked about a little bit earlier, but run buffering basically allows any ATB to stop as long as there's a message on the screen. So we can actually cause that by running, and then we can get your time in menus to where the ATB is not ticking up. Alright, so that was a really good fight. Sometimes Kain will jump twice, or sorry. Sometimes he'll jump more than twice. And then, yeah. We're going to sit through some cutscenes and a little bit more cutscenes. After Golbez leaves and Rydia heals everybody, we're going to walk down to the inn. And then after that, we'll be talking to the king, and then we'll be taking a ship our way back to Baron. But we might get a little bit interrupted along the way. There's really nothing else to grab here in Fubul. We'll be doing a little bit of inventory after we talk to the king. We'll basically be equipping the Darkness Sword on Cecil, possibly removing the tiara on Rydia. I'm not sure if Kain does that or not. It is a little bit on the slower side by a few seconds, but it's not going to hurt your run overall. It's a little more safe as well to keep the tiara. Alright, so we're coming up on the end of the run pretty much. We're making a stop in Mysidia, then we're going to make our way up Mount Ordeals. We're going to fight Mylon, and then Mylon Z, and then we're going to fight our Dark Knight Cecil self as a Paladin, and then once we get that Cecil became a Paladin text box, that's the end of the run. But as you see, we are removing the tiara here. We also removed the Darkness Sword and replaced it with the Black Sword. The Black Sword actually gives 5 agility to Cecil, which will help us get away from the single Raven encounter faster than we would be able to with the Darkness Sword. Alright, so we're going to hop on this boat, sit through a few more cutscenes, then we'll make our way to Mysidia, pick up the twins, and then make our way to Mount Ordeals. Like I did say, I don't believe Kain does the Mimic glitch for Carrot or Trash Can. I think he's going to try and show it off after the run. I'm not quite sure. There are a few different strategies for each fight. For the Mylon fight, you can either use Twin, you can throw Dancing Daggers with Palom, or you could... it's either Twin or you throw Dancing Daggers with Palom. But usually throw Cure 2s that we buy at Mysidia to throw on the zombies in that fight. And then for Mylon Z, there's a few different strats. You can either go Fire 2 strat with the Change Rod on Palom, or you can turn your whole party into piggies and just throw Cure 2s. Or you can use Twin, or you can do the Trash Can strategy, which is basically the Mimic glitch. We'll go into that a little bit towards when we get there. It's a little bit convoluted. I'm not sure I explain it very well, but I'll do my best.
Alright, so we were on our way to Baron, but we got interrupted by the god of the sea, Leviathan, and he's just knocking everybody off the boat. Which unfortunately leaves us with only Cecil. Usually there's no encounters between when you get on the world map and Mysidia, but sometimes you can run into one, but it's usually not a threat because we just run away. We're going to do a little bit of shopping. We're going to buy some life potions, some Cure 2 potions. That's usually about it in a Paladin run. Alright, so we didn't get any. Some people shop first. Looks like Kain's going to be shopping first, which isn't a bad thing. Some people also shop on the way out. I don't think it matters time-wise. But we do see we're buying 45 Cure 2 potions and life potions. And some heals, just in case we get poisoned by Mylon Z. That's a good purchase as well. You can actually adjust the increments of the amount you want to buy on the 10s by pressing X. So like if you go to adjust the custom amount, if you press X, it actually increases it by 10. So you don't have to hold like up or down. Just kind of like a little speed trick in the menu. So if you wanted to buy like 80, you'd only have to press X 7 times instead of holding up or down to get your way there. So we get Paladin Forum here. They're pretty strong overall. We won't be using them a whole bunch. It's mostly just be using the twin command. Paladin can be pretty useful, like if you get levels on him. Looks like we're gonna buy some armor as well. Probably buy some silver rings, Gaia stuff, which isn't a bad idea either. It adds extra safety to the Mylon Z fight. So Mylon Z is actually undead and earth based, but earth isn't actually an element, so he's actually flying. If you grind Quake on Palom and you use Quake on Mylon Z, it doesn't actually do anything to him. I guess that's how they got around being having him as the earth elemental fiend. Looking like a pretty solid walk overall so far. Not too many encounters. It's usually a good feeling when you get that. It was a really good walk. Alright, so we're going to sit through cutscene here. We're going to be introduced to Mylon. Make our way up the mountain. We're not going to grab anything. We are going to save before the Mylon fight. Just as a safety. Mylon Z can be a little finicky. We're, still really low leveled. Versus what you would normally be leveled in a casual playthrough. Really don't have anything to worry about going up this mountain. Some back attacks can be a little on the slow side, but really nothing worthwhile of noting. There are some places we would take extra steps. If we were step routing, it would be towards the summit. Yeah. I also like how in this game that's a giant metal ball that's going to crush Rosa instead of in the Japanese version where it's like a guillotine. I don't know which one is actually quote-unquote better or more safe to a Western audience back then, I guess. I would think the crushing would be a little more dramatic than a guillotine, but I don't know, just kind of my take. Alright, so we're going to run into Tella here. Tella's going to join our party. He'll be basically only throwing Cure 2 potions to heal people. He's really not useful in either of the fights.
unless you are doing carrot or trash can. He is required in both those fights because he's needed for the stop spell. So what I talk about when I say carrot or trash can is there's a mimic glitch in this game where is if you queue up twin and then before the other twin can mimic the twin command, they get killed. The original caster of it gets stuck in a state to where they're looking for something to mimic, and then we use that to our advantage to actually use an unusable item in our inventory, like the trash can or the carrot. When those items are used in battle, they're not coded to, but they call on a certain part of the game to say, hey, this does 8 times holy or 8 times fire 3, and those are the 2 damages that we do if we do that glitch. The Mylon mimic glitch is a little tighter, a little harder to pull off, but the Mylon Z mimic glitch is usually the one that most people learn because it saves a decent chunk of time versus doing twin or Cure 2 potions. Been a pretty good walk up the mountain so far. Not really too much to bug us. That back attack was a little annoying, but so we're gonna go. Oh, we're not gonna throw a save. We're just gonna go right in. All right, so we're gonna heal up beforehand. We're gonna equip some defensive stuff on Palom and Porum. We're probably gonna see the Chain Rod and then the Gaia Gear, which will give Palom some more magic damage as well. This also is gonna help Twin. Twin calls on the highest slotted Twin. I think they're Wisdom, I think it is. I think it's Wisdom for black magic. It might be Willpower, I'm not sure. But either way, Twin uses the highest of the black magic stat. So since Palom is in the technical highest slot, with the center slot being number 1, Twin is going to use Palom's black magic power, basically. So we're going to deal some more damage here. So we're just going to go with straight up Twin strats. We're not going to throw Cure 2 potions on the zombies. We're going to see a Cure 2 spell. We do get flare. Find it in this situation, you want to see the Stardust one, especially if you're trying to target all of them, just because it doesn't split. Looks like we're trying to kill off Telly here. If you don't kill off one of your characters, Alan will actually not learn Fire 2. He'll only learn Piggy and Ice 2. So we need to have one of our characters dead before we get to the Mylon Z fight. So I'm assuming that we're going to see a Fire 2 fight against Mylon Z here, which is a pretty good fight. I think Kain's looking for a swoon here, a death proc, yeah. So that's good. We have now we're just going to have Cecil basically throwing Cure 2s. We just want to make sure that Palom stays alive. So yeah, we're gonna heal up at least Palom here. So the tiara or the gold hairpin actually has lightning resistance. So all the lightning spells that we're gonna see against Porum are all gonna do 1 damage, which isn't a bad thing. So we get the last twin off here. Oh, no twin. Alright, so we got through the fight. That's not too bad. We're going to heal up everybody. We are going to see that Palom learns Fire 2 here. But we want to make sure we heal up and change rows before the next fight, just because it's a forced back attack. So we're going to bring all 4 people back up. So we're going to do Piggy Cure 2 strats here, okay.
So we're just going to be piggy. So the piggy thing is interesting. In this game, there's a status hierarchy. And if you have a certain status, you can't actually get any other statuses. So piggy actually overrules poison. So we can't actually get poisoned in this fight if we are piggies. It's definitely it's an interesting quote unquote feature of the game, I would say. I wouldn't call it quite a bug, but I also wouldn't call it intentional. Cecil's going to do pretty much the same damage, whether attacking or using Cure 2s. This is a pretty safe fight overall. Cure 2s do a decent amount of damage since he is undead. Yeah, this is one of like the safer strats. It reduces the chance. Well, it reduces the chance to get poisoned to 0, because if you get poisoned, you can run into that poisoned text box. And for some reason, it reduces the battle message speed in this fight to 6. So it's even slower than if it was just like a regular fight and you got poisoned. This is probably the safest, but it's also a little bit on the slowest side. It is absolutely the safest way to do it, though, especially if you're uncomfortable with other fights or if you're not super familiar with the run. Alright, so that fight's, again, pretty easy, straightforward, safe. It doesn't really matter if Cecil is dead. As soon as you walk into the crystal chamber, you get a full heal. And then we're just going to be throwing some dancing daggers at Cecil's dark side. The fight's pretty straightforward. You can either just sit there and not do any damage to Cecil, or you can actually deal more than 1,000 damage, because that's what his HP count is at. In the Japanese version, he has a ton more HP, so it's actually faster to just sit through the whole cutscene. For some reason, I guess they lowered it to 1,000 in the US version. So we're not quite the Paladin yet. We haven't proved ourselves, but this is the very, very tail end of the run. This has been a pretty good run overall. Not too many issues. Only got like one back attack. It's a pretty good run overall. This is an easy game to learn, difficult to like master. This run's pretty easy to pick up though. Definitely recommend learning it if you like JRPGs. So we're gonna use those dancing daggers again. That's a very high roll, and we like the high rolls. This fight, I believe, can actually be up to a 5 dancing dagger fight, depending on how your RNG rolls go. But this looks like it might be a 3 dagger. If we get another one over like 350, very nice. All right, so time's gonna stop once we see the Cecil became a Paladin text box, and then it's a good run. All right, and GG's. That was a very good run. If you are into learning this game, I believe there's a lot of links on speedrun.com under the Final Fantasy IV. There's also a Discord. It's not super active. Not a lot of people speedrun this game, but it's definitely a fun one to pick up and learn. I feel, anyways. Looks like we might be trying to underflow Tella and show off Meteor here. Alright, so there's another glitch in this game where if you cast a spell that you can't cast, you can actually underflow his MP so you can have enough to cast Meteo. Basically, you have to push the, like right there, so he has casting Cure 4, but he doesn't have the MP to cast. You have to push the select button and the... Not explaining this very well. You have to use all your MP. You have to select a spell that you can't cast, move your cursor to a spell you can cast, and push the direction back to the spell that you can't cast and confirm on the same frame. And then that'll allow you to cast Media. And basically have 65,000 MP. It's used not too much in the other runs, but it's used here and there. It's definitely useful. And look, Tella didn't die.